Thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Periodically, we'll bring you true stories of angelic encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. When we come back, we'll begin our next episode. Hello and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Today I'd like to replay a broadcast from the Prophecy Club that Stan Johnson did earlier this week. I think it's a very important broadcast and very informative. Stan talks about many of the prophecies that we have talked about here on this show for America, and he puts them into perspective as to what's going on right now in December and how it correlates with this election and the uncertainty of its outcome. So without further ado, here's Stan Johnson of the Prophecy Club with his latest broadcast.
Welcome to the Prophecy Club. I just got some news that I want to talk about. I would like to tell you about this, but I know that if I start putting this on our platform, and I can't say the name of the platform, you know what I'm talking about, I know that they will pull the program and possibly turn off our channel. So I cannot say the things I want to say, but I'm going to do the best to send you where you can hear it. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the internal revolution apparently has already had bullets fly. So here's the refresher. You've heard it many times. As you know, Dmitri was told the fall of America will start. Didn't say it end, didn't say it was the middle way. He said it would start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries will attack. The Russians will bombard the nuclear missiles in America, and America will burn. Then God will raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations. They'll go against the Russians. They'll defeat the Russians. They'll back the Russians to the gates of Paris where they sign a peace treaty, but they'll make the Russians their leader. With the Russians as their leader, all the world goes down to attack Israel. Israel cries for Messiah. Jesus returns on the clouds and defeats the armies of the earth. Now, the point you need to remember there is God will raise up China and Japan and many of the nations. So somehow in this, China is going to be on our side. Now, before I get to the real big bang-up news, let me read another one. Yes, we have been getting numerous calls at the office. Hey, wait a minute. This prophecy from Dmitri says we're going to go to war with China. For all of these years, I have believed and I've understood and still believe and want to believe that that's not the understanding. So let me read it and carefully explain it to you. Then I'll bring you the news. And brothers and sisters, on this one, on this broadcast, I'm going to have to ask you, send this out to everyone on your email list, make phone calls, call everyone in America needs to hear this information. That is, before they start seeing smoke on the horizon. Yeah, apparently it's that serious. April 22, 1996. Dmitri said I prayed, went to bed. I was still awake when suddenly I heard a trumpet. A voice cried out to me, "Stand!" In my vision, I was in America. I walked out of my home and began to look around for someone to see who had spoken to me. As I looked, I saw three men dressed alike. Two of the men carried weapons, in other words, angels. One of the armed men came to me and said, "I woke you to show you what is to come," he said. "Come with me." I didn't know where I was being taken, but when we reached a certain place, he said, "Stop here." A pair of binoculars was handed to me, and I was told to look through them. "Stand there, don't move, and look," he continued. you will see what they are planning and preparing for America. As I was looking, I saw a great light. A dark cloud appeared over it. I saw the president of Russia, a short, chubby man who said he was the president of China. Now, let's stop right there. Is the president of China a short, chubby man? No, he is almost as tall and as slender as is President Trump. But that's who he saw in this vision. So again, it makes me hope that it's not coming to pass right now. But there's some things that may be saying it is. I saw the president of Russia and a short, chubby man who said he was the president of China, and two others. The last two also said where they were from, but I didn't understand. However, I gathered they were part of Russian-controlled territory. The men stepped out of the cloud. The Russian president began to speak to the Chinese one. I will give you the land with all the people, but you must free Taiwan of the Americans. Do not fear. We will attack them from behind. A voice said to me, now this is the angel talking to him, watch where the Russians penetrate America. Now this is the important part. I saw these words being written. Alaska, Minnesota, remember Minnesota, Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. Then the man spoke again. When America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning. Now, here's the question. Then it said, the man spoke again. All of these years, I have believed that that is not the angel speaking, but the president of Russia, or maybe the president of China speaking. But in light of this, I'm going to leave some wiggle room for perhaps it was the angel. And I'll tell you why. I've been saying all of these years, it is not the angel of God. We'll get to that in 2 paragraphs. Then the man spoke again. When America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning. Now, as you remember, all of these years, the angel said God will raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations that go against the Russians. The other 2 presidents spoke. We too will fight for you. Each had a place already planned as a point of attack. All of them shook hands and hugged. They all signed a contract. One of them said, we're sure that Korea and Cuba will be on our side too. Without a doubt, together, we can destroy America. The president of Russia began to speak insistently. So who's speaking now? It's the president of Russia. Why let ourselves be led by the Americans? Why not rule the world ourselves? They have to be kicked out of Europe too. Then I can do as I please with Europe. The man standing beside me, this would be the angel, this is what you saw. They act as friends. They say they respect the treaties made by each other. But, here's the but. Here's the big but. You got to hear this. But, everything I've shown you is how it will really happen. Meaning, America, I believe this is the way, all these years I've been saying that this is the way it interprets. When America goes to war with China was not spoken by the angel, but either by China or by the Russian president. When America goes to war with China, the Russians will strike without warning. Okay? Now, hear those 6 words. When America goes to war with China. When America goes to war with China. In light of what I'm about to tell you, possibly, I'll give some wiggle room. Possibly, it was the angel talking. Now, all these years I've been saying, no, it's either the president of Russia or China. But let's go on. But everything I've shown you is how it'll really happen. You must tell them what is being planned against America. Then, when it comes to pass, the people will remember the words that the Lord has spoken. Who are you? I ask. I am the protector of America. America's sin has reached God. He will allow this destruction, for he can no longer stand the wickedness. God, however, still has people that worship him with a clean heart as they do his work. He has prepared a heavenly army to save these people. I do not believe, and neither did Dmitri, think that that was a pre-trib rapture. As I looked, a great army, well-dressed, dressed in white, appeared before me. Do you see that? The man said, this army will go to battle to save my chosen ones. Then the difference between the godly and the ungodly will be evident. Now, is this saying that America is going to go to war with China just prior to the Russians striking? As you recall, cover stone was shown UN troops Chinese troops and Russian troops. And he was shown that in the month of December and January. Now, we have prayed away a lot of this. We've still got to keep praying, my brothers and sisters. But in light of what I'm about to tell you, it's a little scary. Okay, this is really serious, but I cannot say a lot of the words that are on HalTurnerRadioShow.com's website. Okay, so first one, and I'm going to have to substitute a lot of words, and you may be saying, I don't understand, and I'm sorry. This is the only way I can say it. So this is concerning Canada. In his Wednesday night radio program, again, HalTurnerRadioShow.com, was taken off the air over what I'm about to not say. So he began reporting that there was a down that flies through the air someplace in the northern part of America. And reportedly it was downed by foreign somebodies because there was a group of people that was actually coming on American soil that's not supposed to. I'm trying to decipher this as I go along. The pilot is still missing. Apparently, I think that's all I can say there. Let me jump to another article. You're just going to have to go to HalTurnerRadioShow.com. In this case, I've never recommended this before, but in this case, you need to listen to his broadcasts because he's saying things I know. If I would put those, you would never hear it. They'd pull the broadcast so fast. Here, let me go on. All right, now there's a name here, and I'm going to say his first name is Justin, and he's out of the land to the north. That's all I can say. Apparently, he has invited slant-eyed people from across the pond to send in their best and brightest for cold weather training in Canada. And apparently, how do I say this? It's not good. This is the only one of the bombshell revelations on this thing called, here, I'll give you the website. You can go to rebelnews.com/the_China_files. 35 pages. I have not read all of them, but this particular part is on the very last page. Apparently, the documents that normally would have been all blacked out by the government censors, instead, this case, they didn't. In other words, actually giving the truth for a change. Now, let's go on to another article. Pull this off of HalTurnerRadioShow.com. Most of this I'm not going to be able to say either. You're just going to have to go, in this case, and read it. But prepare for your mouth to fall open. It says, HalTurnerRadioShow.com has just reported that those slant-eyed from across the pond were just now killed in not a foreign land, and they called it an earthquake. It wasn't an earthquake. Instead, the flying something was shot down, and there's troops and groups and I can't even say it. I'm sorry. There's just almost every word are words I just can't say. I just can't say it. I know they'd pull it. The government cut his show. Both computers and telephone, all gone. Wouldn't let it go out. They're not going to let it go out on me either. He says these are the first shots of World War III. He says they have been fired. Over the past 4 days, there has been massive movements. I can't say that either. The U.S., I can't say that, is positioning. We did talk about aircraft carriers on both the east and west coasts. It appears that they're preparing to defend our homeland. He goes on with other things. I can't say it. I want to tell you. But the point is, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution. All of these times, I thought that was going to be, maybe like Americans raising firearms against Americans. Apparently, it's a whole lot more serious than that.
Hello again, this is The Watchman. Please join us each week for an exciting and inspirational podcast dealing with angel encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. So tune in each week and share it with your friends. After all, they could use a little inspiration in their life, too. That's the Watchman on the Wall podcast, and now you can find us on YouTube. We return you now to Stan Johnson and his important broadcast.
Let me go to an article I can read from. HalTurnerRadioShow.com. Headline: Pennsylvania accuses Texas of seditious behavior over Supreme Court case. I don't know what it is about this guy, but the information he keeps coming up with from secular sources keep confirming what God has warned is coming for our nation. Headline: December 11, 2020. Pennsylvania accuses Texas of seditious behavior over Supreme Court case. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania accused the state of Texas of sedition in its filing Thursday at the U.S. Supreme Court, responding to a Texas lawsuit seeking to invalidate the presidential vote of 4 other states on constitutional grounds. Now, I've been saying that this election is going to be the start of the internal revolution. Again, the fall of America will start. Didn't say it would end, said it would start with an internal revolution. I'm about to tell you from Hal Turner, from secular sources, it has started going on. Pennsylvania said that Texas was guilty of, quote, seditious abuse of the judicial process. Sedition is commonly understood as rebellion and is defined more precisely in federal criminal law as an attempt to overthrow the United States government. Texas sued Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin Monday night, alleging that they went outside their state legislatures to change their voting procedures in violation of the U.S. Constitution. In addition, Texas argued that these states had applied their own laws unevenly and allowed irregularities to occur. It is seeking to have the vote results in these states set aside, in other words, null and void, and the choice of electors to be decided by the state legislatures, which they know would mean that the Republicans and Trump would win. Pennsylvania and the other defendant states filed their responses on Thursday together with a variety of other parties. The Pennsylvania response was written by Attorney General Josh Shapiro, known for his highly partisan approach. He wrote, "Since Election Day, state and federal courts throughout the country have been flooded with frivolous lawsuits." Now, he's talking about Trump and his lawsuits here. Frivolous lawsuits aimed at disenfranchising large swaths of voters and undermining the legitimacy of the election. Now, hang on. What's going on here? We've got one state that is saying the other states, the 4 states, cheated. And this is the other 4 states saying, no, you didn't either. And we're not going to put up with it. Okay, so this, my brothers and sisters, I'd have to say of my 28 years in the radio, this is probably one of the most serious broadcasts I've ever put out. This is the biggest thing that's probably going to start the internal revolution. Let me go on. The state of Texas has now added its voice to the cacophony, never heard that word before, the cacophony of bogus claims. Texas seeks to invalidate elections in 4 states. That's invalidate. In other words, throw away all of the elected votes, all of the votes for the whole states, those 4 states, for yielding results with which it disagrees. Its request for this court to exercise its original jurisdiction and then anoint, here it is, Texas preferred candidate for president is legally indefensible and is an affront to principles of constitutional democracy. So the 4 bad guys, the 4 bad states, the 4 states that cheated, are basically saying you're only doing this because you want to see Trump elected. Now, he didn't say it directly, but in so many words that they said. Now, it goes on and gets worse. Texas' effort to get this court to pick the next president has no basis in fact or law. The court should not abide this seditious abuse of the judicial process and should send a clear and unmistakable signal that such abuse must never be replicated. Now, said in common terms, Texas is saying, you 4 guys cheated. And the other 4 guys that did cheat is saying, no, we did not. You are just doing this because you want to see Trump elected. And the problem is, this, my brothers and sisters, is exactly how civil wars start, or internal revolutions. Now, Hal Turner goes on and gives his opinion. Okay, that's all fact. He gives his opinion. And I love some of the things he says because he's saying things that only a prophecy student should be saying. He says, with this court filing, corrupt Dems, there's some words I can't say, okay, so I'm changing some of this. Corrupt Dems of the governing regime of Pennsylvania have just upped the ante. When one state government accuses another state government of sedition, that, listen carefully, is precisely the kind of thing that truly gets the ball rolling in terms of actual, here it is, civil war. He said it, not me. Not some wild-eyed, arm-waving, crazy prophecy student. That's what they want to call us. But the problem is, we're right. The problem is, we really can recognize the voice of God. Now, let's go on to what he says. This is his opinion. The Texas case against Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia has exploded. Now, nearly the entire country is picking sides. Okay, that sound like war to you? Sounds like war to me. And given the stuff I just read in the broadcast the day before about all of the military moving, it's not a joke. We're about to go to war. The whole country knows that the state of Texas sued Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin on Monday night in the U.S. Supreme Court, challenging their unlawful election procedures. Texas argued these 4 states violated the U.S. Constitution because they made changes to voting rules and procedures through the courts or through executive actions. But these states did not make the changes through the state legislatures as spelled out in the U.S. Constitution. Clearly, the Pennsylvania Democrats are following Saul Alinsky's, quote, rules for radicals, wherein the communist political left is instructed. Now listen to this. Boy, you talk about important. Listen to this. The left is instructed to accuse others of what you yourself are engaging in. Boy, have we not seen that? That's exactly what they do. Okay, let me tie these together. As you recall, Dmitry was shown where the Russians will attack is down through Alaska, Minnesota, and Florida. Is it just an accident that we saw the George Floyd thing and everything just blow up with like gasoline thrown on it, and that happened in Minnesota? Have we not seen a lot of things in Minnesota? And now all of a sudden we're hearing the other things I can't talk about. It sounds like war. I'm going to tell you, it sounds like a war. It sounds like America's been invaded. But again, I can't say those things. I know I can't. And I want to keep my voice for other things. And so until there's changes until there are changes in the platform, I know they'll take me off. I keep praying, Lord, help me say the right things. Don't let me say the wrong things. And he keeps warning me, don't say that or they'll pull it. So I won't say it. But I'm telling you, there's some very important things. HalTurnerRadioShow.com. Go there and check it out. I think that the wind has changed. The rules have changed. There's a new sheriff in town. We're now under new management, new ownership. Or you could say we have a new coach. In other words, the door has closed on the United States of America, the Constitution, our republic, and our freedoms. But that's actually going to prove to be a good thing. Opened to the new. The new being, since the Constitution is gone, now God's laws rule, like it was back before there was the King Saul. Freedom is gone, but that can be good because the freedom that has given us protection from bad people in high places search and seizure rights, right to remain silent, right to an attorney, right to make a phone call. Those wonderful rights also have been used by evil to their advantage. And so if there's going to be a draining of the swamp, if there's going to be us turning from our wicked ways, you can see that there's going to have to be a time of martial law, a time when the Insurrection Acts of 1870, giving President Trump not only full authority, but also authority to use our military against evil in our nation to drain the swamp. You can see that really there's no other way. Hopefully, we will continue to get God's protection, just as Coverstone and Dimitri and just about all the other prophets out there have been shown, that if we are walking clean before Him, we not need fear. Let me say it again. If we are clean before Jesus, we need not fear. Many times, almost every prophetic word has it in there, I'm going to protect my own. I can make a whole program about that. The American dollar is about to lose 30% more of its present value, and the second drop since the previous 2008 drop of 20%. The dollar will then be worth half what it was before September 2008. This is Maurice Sklar. This drop will cause an economic distress upon our nation. Then Shane Warren comes along, and he's shown that the devaluing of our dollar causes major rioting in the streets, looting with signs saying, I want my entitlements. But what we heard today, all of that is minor compared to what we heard today. And again, I can't say all of it. You just got to go to HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Listen to the program. I'm not certain which program it was, Wednesday, Thursday, or I don't even know if he does one daily. But wow. And read what's on there. You remember also Terry Bennett said he saw a dramatic change in our government. Well, you could say that with Donald Trump, but apparently now we see it's a lot more. There will be a time of anarchy and chaos, and for a while we'll have a fractional government, which means basically our government come down to the state level because the military steps in and has to seize control of the federal government. You'd call it a coup, but in all honesty, it'll be to help our nation. Does that sound like the Constitution, the Republic, and our freedoms being removed so that Trump can drain the swamp? Does to me. That's why the military steps in. He also was shown that when the checks from our government stop coming to the people, the chaos will ensue. Well, you know those PPP checks that first came out? They have stopped coming. Now they're talking about bringing some more, but they hadn't come yet. So at this point, we have vultures, we have checks that have stopped coming from the government. So many things that we have been warned about, well, here they are. And here's the trouble. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution. Started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. The government will be busy with internal problems. Then from the oceans. Now this is the part we've got to pray. We've got to pray that God will soften, delay, or remove them from the oceans. Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and 2 other countries will attack and defeat America in one day. If we do not have those 7 headlines from Leslie, I would be saying right now, absolutely positively, the Russians are about to attack. They're about to attack, and I would probably say within 6 months. But I don't have a time period there. But let me read again. Now, I'm going to read them today in the order I think they will come to pass, because that's kind of good news. January 22:06, she heard the audible voice of God say, Israel refuses help to America. Now, this is the order I think they will come to pass. Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Well, we have not seen Palestinian state, but we just did see a 4th nation, again, signed to be friends with Israel. So I'd have to say at this point, we are getting really close to a Palestinian state be given. That headline appears, and then, Bub, we better really start praying. Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Catastrophe hits America. One of America's greatest times of need. Israel refuses help to America. Israel has attacked America, sends troops. Chaos reigns as Americans protest help to Israel. Then she heard my voice quoting Dimitri, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution. Now, in that order, it sounds like the internal revolution would be last. But again, we do not know the exact order. It could be that last one, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution. It could be that is actually the first one.
We'll be right back after this important message. Are you interested in scary places? Well, I found a great podcast called Your Haunted Holiday. Each week, sisters Lisa and Lindsay will take you to some of the most haunted places in the world. Their incredible research into how these places became haunted is complemented by their insight into the ghostly activities that are present. They give you information on ghost tours, prices, and much more. That's Your Haunted Holiday. You can go to yourhauntedholiday.com or just listen to wherever great podcasts are found. Are you looking for a good quality used car but don't want to pay an arm and a leg? Well, come into Rainey Used Cars. We have the largest selection in the Southeast. Whether you want a pickup or a quality SUV from Mom, you'll find a variety of vehicles to choose from. We even finance. So come in today. You'll find a Rainey Used Cars located near you. Well, thanks again for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. Also, give us a like. We welcome any comments or suggestions you might have. We also ask you to subscribe so that you will be notified of all our future episodes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Watchman on the Wall podcast.